We have two of the best teams in the NFL facing off yet again as the Green Bay Packers are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. This is your Week 17, 2024 prediction and preview video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Also hit the like button. Let's start with the home team, the Minnesota Vikings. This team is on an 8-game winning streak, and they've only lost 2 games this season. One game against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday night, and then they lost another game the week prior to the Detroit Lions. In this matchup against the Green Bay Packers, you have to get Justin Jefferson involved, and the same with Jordan Addison and TJ Hockenson. This is not the first time that these two teams have faced off against each other. And you look at what happened last week for the Minnesota Vikings. They went against the Seattle Seahawks, and it was not an easy game for the Minnesota Vikings. They won this matchup 27-24. Sam Darnold was 22 of 35, 246 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and Aaron Jones had 67 rushing yards, averaged 4 yards a carry. Justin Jefferson, 10 catches, 144 receiving yards on the day, 2 receiving touchdowns. Jordan Addison, 5 catches, 35 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. When I look at Sam Darnold, this man is playing like an MVP throughout this entire season. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. But one thing that does bother me, since Christian has went down at the left tackle position against the Los Angeles Rams over a month ago, this offensive line has not looked the same. The key to victory in this matchup for the Minnesota Vikings is to keep Sam Darnold protected inside the pocket. Sam Darnold has a lot of ability to move around. His mobility is very underrated, and he has a powerful arm to push deep down the field to Justin Jefferson and to Jordan Addison. If you don't believe me, look at what happened in the first game against the Green Bay Packers. He went out there and he had yet another phenomenal game. He was 20 of 28, 275 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. We'll talk about that interception when we talk about the Green Bay Packers. But Sam Darnold can go out there and throw the football around the field. That's not going to be a problem. It's just the offensive line protection. The reason why I'm worried about the offensive line protection in this matchup and not the other matchups that the Minnesota Vikings have been in without Christian, the Green Bay Packers defense has played better over the last month. And when you look at this defense underneath Jeff Hafley, they're finding a way to go out there and put pressure on the opposing quarterback without blitzing. Sam Darnold has also went out there and had some bad moments when he's dealt with pressure up front. Look at what happened against the Chicago Bears. Did not have his best day, but they ran the football effectively in that matchup. Over the last 5 games, the Green Bay Packers have produced a top 5 defense in the NFL against the pass and against the run. You can't come out here and be one-dimensional. You have to lean on Aaron Jones, and you know that he's going to want to go out there and have a great day against his former team that moved away from him to bring in Josh Jacobs. And speaking of Aaron Jones, in that first matchup between these two teams, he had 93 rushing yards. He averaged 4 yards a carry. Get Aaron Jones involved and get those weapons on the perimeter involved. It is good to note this. TJ Hockenson did not play in the first matchup. He was still recovering from that torn ACL they suffered the year before. TJ Hockenson is a game breaker. The Green Bay Packers went out there with a very good game plan to stop Justin Jefferson and to contain Jordan Addison. But when you have a guy in TJ Hockenson who can come in and kill you underneath and can kill you with the intermediate routes going 10 to 15 yards down the field, that's a major weapon to have for the Minnesota Vikings in this matchup. And Aaron Jones was the 3rd leading wide receiver in that first encounter in week 4. He had 46 receiving yards. Jordan Addison, 72 receiving yards. Justin Jefferson, 85 receiving yards. I believe that the Minnesota Vikings have the firepower to go out there and take advantage of certain matchups. You want to go out there and test out the linebackers as much as possible. The Seattle Seahawks tried to do that, but it was not successful because their offensive line could not block up front. When I look at the Minnesota Vikings offensive line, they're decent in certain situations. That's why the offensive line is going to be very impactful in this game. But you want to test out those linebackers in coverage. The Green Bay Packers, they're not known for pass coverage linebackers. They're known for going out there and stopping the run and putting pressure on your opposing quarterback. And you have a lot of mismatched guys that you can go out there and put on those linebackers in terms of those opportunities with TJ Hockenson, with Justin Jefferson going across the middle of the field, and with Jordan Addison. And don't sleep on Jalen Naylor. He's a man that doesn't get a lot of attention by the national media, but he can be a very good deep threat in this matchup. A 30 to 40 yard reception could go a long ways in this matchup, and you could put the Minnesota Vikings in scoring range to walk away with a field goal or even better, a touchdown. I like the Minnesota Vikings offense in this game. It just comes down to the tackle positions, the left tackle and the right tackle position for the Minnesota Vikings. When I look at the Vikings defense, last week, they did do a decent job against Geno Smith. They found a way to go out there and neutralize him when it mattered the most. And that's all that you want to see happen. Yes, they allowed a close football game last week, but they kept him into the game for the entirety of the game. And the first encounter with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, he had 3 interceptions in that matchup. And now this is a different Green Bay Packers team. They now love to run the football and they use a lot of motion. Brian Flores has produced a top rushing defense in the NFL, not just through the last 2 months. For this entire season, the Minnesota Vikings have had one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL. You stop the run with Josh Jacobs and you put that pressure on Jordan Love. You don't want Jordan Love to go out there and get comfortable inside the pocket. Pass rushing is going to be key in this matchup. And I'm looking at Jonathan Gennard. I'm looking at Pat Jones and Andrew Van Ginkel. Can they go back there and put enough pressure on Jordan Love? And this is also something that does concern me about the Minnesota Vikings defense in this matchup. They love to blitz so much to where you can find open holes and open spaces for Josh Jacobs. And he's the type of running back, he can hit this top end speed coming straight out of the backfield. And he can break a lot of tackles. He's top of the league right now in terms of breaking tackles and avoiding contact also. So he's one of those running backs you have to go out there and possibly game tackle him. Do not let him get ahead of steam. Because if you do, it's going to be a hard time bringing him down. But look at the front seven with the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, that's the strength of their defense. You have to go out there and overwhelm Jordan Love. You have to go out there and take out the rushing attack with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs did not do much in the first encounter because he did not get that many touches. Since week 4, this man has averaged 20 touches a game. That's a lot for a running back in the NFL, especially for the Green Bay Packers. So go out there, take away that run game, and be on lookout for those deep threats going down the field. Christian Watson is questionable for this game. He's dealing with a knee injury, but you can go out there and you can play one-on-one coverage as long as that blitz hits home. Now look at Stephon Gilmore, who is questionable in this game. If he's able to play, he is still one of the better cornerbacks to have in this league. You have Byron Murphy Jr., who had a very good game against the Arizona Cardinals and had a very good outing last week against the Seattle Seahawks. And throughout this entire season, he's been Mr. Consistent. Harrison Smith is a very good safety to still have, especially against the run. You want to make sure that everyone can go out there and press up on those wide receivers if you want to blitz. Give cushion every now and then to a guy like Romeo Doubs because that's the go-to guy in blitzing situations. This is why the Green Bay Packers struggled against the Detroit Lions on Thursday Night Football in the first half because Romeo Doubs is not there. Notice against the Seattle Seahawks, he had 2 receiving touchdowns. They go to him when it's a lot of pressure going on because he's the best route runner with the team. You also have Jaden Reed to take accountability for and Tucker Kraft. He's questionable for this matchup. He got dinged up last week against the New Orleans Saints. But Luke Musgrave, for the first time in a very long time, he's on pace to play in this matchup. Be on lookout for the tight ends and be on lookout for the counterattacks by the Green Bay Packers. It's going to be a very fun matchup to watch Coach LaFleur and his offense go against Brian Flores in this defense. I like the Minnesota Vikings in this game, but I also like the Green Bay Packers, what they've been doing. These 2 teams are 2 true Super Bowl contenders, not only in just this division, but in the NFL. Now, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers went out there last week and, they asserted true dominance over the New Orleans Saints. Granted, the New Orleans Saints are dealing with a lot of injuries. They didn't have their starting quarterback. Alvin Kamara did not play. They also did not have one of their top starting wide receivers in Chris Olave or even Rashid Shaheed. With that being said, I've seen the Green Bay Packers go out there and win games with Malik Willis. Not to make excuses, but it is what it is. You can't help who you play and you can't help your competition. You just go out there and you beat your competition, and that's what the Green Bay Packers did. They dominated last week 34-0. Jordan Love was 16-28, 182 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Josh Jacobs, 13 carries, 69 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. You also had Emmanuel Wilson. He came in 52 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. That will get it done. When you look at the situation with the Green Bay Packers early in the season, I just mentioned Malik Willis a couple seconds ago. It was really a blessing in disguise. When Jordan Love went down, they made this a rushing first offense. They made Josh Jacobs the feature player with this team, and that should always be the case. The general manager went out there and they brought him in. Right now, he's been one of the best running backs in the NFL this season. But the last time the Minnesota Vikings played the Green Bay Packers, Josh Jacobs only had 9 carries on the day. And out of those 9 carries, the man had 51 rushing yards. Feed Josh Jacobs in this game. It was a blessing in disguise that Jordan Love got injured because they went out there and they ran the football more with Josh Jacobs. And since then, the offense hasn't been the same for good reasons. they have become more so of a balanced team. Jordan Love doesn't have to go out there and throw for 3 to 4 passing touchdowns in this matchup, and the same with the Minnesota Vikings. In order for either team to win this football game, complementary football is going to be your friend. And when I look at the Green Bay Packers, it's a lot of counterattacks up front. You may think that it's just run up the middle over and over again, run to the outside. No, it's a method to the madness with Coach LaFleur, one of the best head coaches in the NFL since he's been hired with the Green Bay Packers, and one of the best play callers also because he's their main offensive coordinator. He's going out there, he's using a balanced attack by getting the run involved to set up the pass. And in the second half of the game, use the pass to set up the run. The counterattack can hurt the Minnesota Vikings in many ways because Josh Jacobs has the explosiveness to come out of the backfield, but feed Josh Jacobs. I've seen Coach LaFleur in the past, even last season with Aaron Jones, he would give up on the run game. He hasn't done that in the last 2 months. Stick with the rushing attack. Stick with Josh Jacobs. If you have a chance to go out there and win this game by Josh Jacobs, so be it. And feed Emmanuel Wilson also. This should be a run-first offense in this matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, and then you let Jordan Love go out there and you let him put the team on his back with the key weapons that he has. Like I mentioned before, Christian Watson is questionable for this game. He's dealing with a knee injury, but this is one of the most loaded teams in the NFL at the wide receiving position. You have Jaden Reed in the first matchup, 139 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Dontavian Wicks, 78 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Romeo Doubs, even though he only had 39 receiving yards, he was able to go out there and make key plays on second and third down to keep the chains moving. And Tucker Kraft, 53 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. This is going to be important in this matchup. Don't just feed one wide receiver. Brian Flores has went out there in the past. If you keep going to the same target, he will put him in double coverage and he will send a blitz coming from the opposite direction off the blind side of the quarterback. And that is what got the Minnesota Vikings the upper hand in the first encounter. We go back to that game. It came down to a botched punt by the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had that game going to halftime until a couple of things went towards the Green Bay Packers' way. They made a lot of adjustments at halftime, and that's going to come down to the coaching for the defense and the offense in this matchup for the Packers. But go out there, run this offense through Josh Jacobs, and let Jordan Love go out there and cook. And Jordan Love has done a great job of taking care of the football. All I've heard all season long is that Jordan Love's a turnover machine. Well, majority of those turnovers happened when he was dealing with an injury. He was dealing with a leg injury to his knee that he suffered against the Philadelphia Eagles, first game of the season, and he hurt his groin a couple of weeks later. Since then, we've seen Jordan Love get more comfortable inside the pocket, and he's throwing that football off the back foot. He looks like Brett Favre mixed with Aaron Rodgers in certain situations, and he has that mobility to get out of jam. That is what you definitely want to see in this matchup, because more than likely, you look at Brian Flores, he's going to send that blitz. And Pat Jones may be able to come in and bring in a lot of pressure, but Jordan Love handled the blitz very well in the second half in the first encounter, and he played phenomenal last week against New Orleans Saints. Take what the defense gives you, because a lot of times when they send that blitz, the middle of the field may be wide open or the flats are wide open. Don't sleep on a 3 to 4 yard gain. Those 3 to 4 yards can help you out. You could be in a 2nd and 6 or even a 2nd and 4, depending on how your playmaker can go out there and make moves out of the space. Don't sleep on being a check down Charlie in this matchup. Go out there, take what the defense gives you, and don't put your team behind the 8 ball. Jordan Love has done a great job of taking care of the football. Continue that in this matchup. When I look at the defense for the Green Bay Packers, their defensive line has stepped up. Rashawn Gary has been a very good football player. The same with Lucas Van Ness and Kenny Clark. Pressure is going to be impressive in this game if they can go out there and get it without blitzing. And it's going to be very important in this matchup. Also, you want to put a lot of pressure off the left side with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold did not have the best day against the Chicago Bears, but this is a loaded Minnesota Vikings team. Aaron Jones, he's going to go out there. He's going to try to run hard as possible. The Minnesota Vikings still have a good chance to go out there and win this division, depending on what happens with the Detroit Lions this week and next week. And they face the Detroit Lions next week in a season finale. So the Minnesota Vikings, they want to win this football game. Make the Minnesota Vikings one-dimensional. Hopefully, Jair Alexander can play in this matchup. He hasn't played in quite some time. He's still dealing with a knee injury. Maybe they're saving him for the NFL playoffs, but let's just be honest here. This is basically a playoff game for both teams. You don't want your division rival to go out there and beat you twice in a year. That is not a good look for the Green Bay Packers. You already lost twice to the Detroit Lions, and the second game was very close. And the first encounter was very close between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers. Go out there, put a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold. If Jair Alexander is not able to play, that's going to be a major blow to the secondary because you have a lot of guys to worry about. TJ Hockenson now, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. But I believe that Jeff Hafley can go out there and make a lot of adjustments and try to flip the field. He has done a very good job with disguise coverages on the back end. But at the same time, they haven't faced a team like the Minnesota Vikings in the last month or so. Yes, they went against the Detroit Lions, but when you talk about a team that will go out there and have an aerial attack, the Minnesota Vikings are one of the best teams in the NFL, and the same with the Detroit Lions. I think the Green Bay Packers have a good chance to come out on top if they can make the right adjustments. But the injuries, they do scare me because no Christian Watson in this matchup. He is not a true number one wide receiver, but at the same time, he gives you a lot of ability to go deep down the field with the speed and how big he is, especially coming off the press. So that could be a wide receiver. If you look at it, if he's not ready to go by game time, that's a huge miss. The same with Jair Alexander. And when I look at that tight end position, Tucker Kraft is a very good player. They go to him a lot on second and third downs. That's a man that has been very good in this system, had a very good game against the Arizona Cardinals. He's had a lot of good games in the past, especially against the Los Angeles Rams. I like the skill position when they're fully healthy, and even when they're not fully healthy, I like the head coach with Coach LaFleur. Xavier McKinney, that interception that I talked about many minutes ago, when I said Sam Darnold had the one interception, this is the man that had the interception. In order for the Green Bay Packers to go out there and ultimately win this football game, you have to force Sam Darnold to go out there and be a hero. You want to force Sam Darnold to go back and look like how he looked with the New York Jets, putting a lot of pressure on him and have Xavier McKinney oversee the field. Xavier McKinney has 7 interceptions in the NFL. That's tied first with Kirby Joseph, who is a safety with the Detroit Lions. Xavier McKinney is at his best when it's a single high safety and also when he can come down on tight ends. This could be the guy to go out there and can single-handedly change this game for you. Not only did the Green Bay Packers get a great signing with Josh Jacobs, they got an amazing deal also with Xavier McKinney. With all that being said, I have to pick a winner here. I love both teams. I love the Minnesota Vikings and I love the Green Bay Packers. You guys can go back and listen to videos about both teams. And the Detroit Lions, they are the top tier team in this division right now. But I look at the Packers, I look at the Vikings, they're right there with them. I believe the Green Bay Packers have a good shot to win this matchup. It can go either way. But I am going to take the Minnesota Vikings to win this game 30-27. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have winning this game, the Minnesota Vikings or the Green Bay Packers? And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.